The bitter wind cut across the Wyoming valley like a blade, sharp, relentless, and heavy with the weight of another winter. Ethan Rollins stood on the porch of his sprawling ranch house, eyes on the fiery sunset bleeding behind jagged peaks. At 32, he was the richest rancher for miles, 5,000 acres, more cattle than some towns had people, a house filled with rugs from Persia, lamps from Denver, books bound in leather. And yet, none of it filled the hollow ache inside his chest. 3 years. 3 years since fever had taken Sarah, his wife, and little James with her. 3 years since it buried them on the hill behind the cottonwoods, since laughter had died in the big house, replaced by silence that clung to the walls like dust. It tried to outrun grief with work, more cattle, more land, more wealth. But you can't outrun a ghost. Eventually you stop running. Eventually you stand still, haunted. Mr. Rollins. The timid voice pulled him from the valley's quiet. It turned. A young woman stood in the doorway, shawl clutched tight, her wheat-colored hair pinned neatly beneath a modest bonnet. Clara Bennett, the new maid, barely 20, fresh from Ohio. She had been with them 3 weeks, silent as snowfall, efficient as clockwork. She didn't look at him directly, only at the floor. Yes, Miss Bennett. Supper's ready, sir. Mrs. Henderson said to tell you it's beef stew tonight, with fresh bread. And nodded, but didn't move. Will you be taking it in the dining room, sir, or? Her voice faded with the cold air, as if speaking too loud might break some rule. The study, said at last. I've ledgers to review. Yes, sir. She curtsied, quick and nervous, and disappeared. Ethan lingered on the porch a moment longer, watching the first stars pierce the twilight. He wondered, strangely, why this quiet girl lingered in his thoughts at all. Perhaps it was the way her silence mirrored his own. Perhaps it was the way she moved about the house, careful, precise, like someone afraid to take up space. Inside, the fire crackled in the study as Ethan sat at the great oak desk, ledger books spread wide. Wealth meant control. Wealth meant no one could take what little he had left. That, at least, he could hold onto. Clara entered softly, carrying a tray. She set down the steaming stew, the warm bread wrapped in cloth, a glass of water, each movement careful, exact, like the smallest mistake would summon thunder. Thank you, Ethan said quietly. She gave a brief nod, about to leave, when her eyes caught on the portrait above his desk. Sarah in her wedding gown, baby James in her arms, the last softness in a room built of wood and firelight. You had a beautiful family, sir, Clara murmured, then bit her lip as if the words had escaped against her will. They were, Ethan replied simply. She flushed, curtsied again, and left without another word. Ethan ate without tasting, eyes drifting again and again to the door she'd closed, then to the portrait, then to the door once more. That night, as he climbed the stairs, a faint sound stopped him. A voice, soft and low, coming from the kitchen. He moved quietly, pausing just outside. Clara stood at the basin, washing dishes by lamplight, speaking not to anyone, but as if her heart was too full to keep silent. Tomorrow, I'll dust the parlor extra well, she murmured. Mr. Rollins doesn't use it, but it should be proper. I'll polish the silver again, even if Mrs. Henderson says once a week is enough. Such fine silver, worth more than Papa's store ever was. Her voice trembled. No crying, Clara Marie, she whispered. You're lucky for this roof, these wages. Some girls end up worse. Mr. Rollins is fair, even if he looks so sad. Those eyes, like he's staring at ghosts. Ethan's chest tightened. Ghosts, that's what she saw in him. That's what he had become. The next night, Ethan waited in the study. He let the fire burn low, loosened his collar, and let his eyes close, feigning sleep. The door cracked open. Clara's soft steps crossed the floor, gathering dishes. Then a pause, long enough that Ethan could almost feel her hesitation in the dark. A gentle brush, her fingers touching the blanket from the back of his chair, draping it carefully over his shoulders. Poor man, she whispered, so softly it almost wasn't sound. Working yourself to exhaustion won't bring them back. No. I tried it myself. Ethan kept still, heart pounding. She moved to the hearth, quaking the fire back to life, then stood beneath the portrait. You had a beautiful family, Mr. Rollins, she said again, voice thick with quiet sorrow. I hope you find peace someday. The way you look at them when no one's watching, it breaks my heart. I know what it's like to lose everything. But you're still here, still breathing. That must count for something. She turned, pausing beside his chair once more. Sleep well, sir. Tomorrow's a new day. The door clicked shut, leaving Ethan motionless, heat rising not from the fire but from somewhere deep within, where grief had lived too long. That night, for the first time in years, he wondered about tomorrow. Every night after, Ethan repeated the charade, head tipped back, eyes closed, listening. And every night, Clara came. Sometimes she spoke of chores, sometimes of her mother's lessons, sometimes of her father's failed investments and the long train west. Always she lingered at the portrait, always she spoke a kindness into the dark. By the fifth night, Ethan's hands ached from the cold. Clara placed a small tin on the table. For your hands, she whispered. Mama used to make these, from beeswax and hairs. I hope you don't mind. I wanted to thank her, to speak, but something in the ritual felt sacred. I let it be. On the seventh night, Clara entered pale and unsteady. She set down the tray with trembling hands, murmuring, just a little fever. Finish the chores, Clara. Don't be weak. When she stumbled, Ethan could stay silent no longer. I caught her before she fell. Miss Bennett, I said, startling her. Her gray eyes went wide with shock and shame. You were awake. All this time, I said simply. You're burning up. You shouldn't be on your feet. I'm fine, she protested weakly. Please don't trouble Mrs. Henderson. If she thinks he can't work. Sit, Ethan ordered, guiding her into a chair. His tone allowed no argument. Minutes later, Mrs. Henderson stormed in, scolding her for near collapse. Ethan sent for Dr. Morrison at 11. At this hour, Mrs. Henderson asked, startled. For a servant's fever. For one of my people, Ethan said fiercely. Send him. Clara flushed with embarrassment. You must think me foolish, talking to you while you pretended to sleep, saying all those things. Not foolish, Ethan said gently. Kinder than I deserved. She looked away, tears slipping down her cheeks. The doctor arrived, confirmed exhaustion and undernourishment, and prescribed rest. Strange, I said to Ethan on his way out. To see you so concerned for a maid. But good to see you care about something beyond cattle and ledgers again. For 3 days, Ethan forbade Clara from working. She fretted, certain she'd lose her position. Mrs. Henderson only shook her head. Girl doesn't know how to expect kindness. Been kicked too many times. On the 4th day, Ethan knocked at her door. Clara sat propped on pillows, mending despite her weakness. She tried to rise, but I waved her down. How are you feeling? I asked. Better, sir. I'll be back to work tomorrow. I promise. You'll return when the doctor says you're ready, Ethan interrupted. I hesitated, then lowered his voice. I owe you an apology. Her brow furrowed. For what? For deceiving you, pretending to sleep, listening when I should not have. Color flooded her cheeks. Then you heard everything. Everything, I admitted. Oh, how mortifying, she whispered, covering her face. Not mortifying, I said softly. Illuminating. Clara, your kindness reminded me that compassion still exists. You've done more for me in weeks than wealth or land ever could. She blinked back tears. I only wanted you not to feel so alone. I reached for her hand, rough palm warm over her slender fingers. You'll do no more SSR rubbing floors. When you're well, I'd like you as head maid. Better wages, lighter duties. You've earned it. Her lips parted. But I've only been here 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, Ethan said, you've shown more heart than most do in a lifetime. Weeks later, a blizzard struck without warning. Ethan rode out to check the pregnant cows, but the storm turned fierce, faster than it judged. Hours later, half frozen, staggered back to the ranch, body more ice than flesh. The kitchen door flew open. Clara caught his arm, dragging him inside. Mr. Rollins, she cried, fear breaking through her quiet reserve. His hands were white and waxy, nearly frostbitten. Clara knelt before him without hesitation, rubbing warm mth back into his fingers, tears streaking her flushed face. Not you, not like this, hold on. For an hour, she and Mrs. Henderson fought to bring him back from the edge, spooning broth between chattering teeth, rubbing heat into frozen limes. When the pain came, burning like fire through his veins, Clara never let go of his hands. You're safe, she whispered fiercely, cradling him close. You're home, sleep now. Ethan drifted into unconsciousness with her voice answering him. And when awoke, sunlight on his face, the first thing he saw was Clara asleep in a chair beside his bed, her hand still holding his. For the first time since Sarah and James, Ethan Rollins felt alive. Spring came slow that year, melting snow into streams, quaking wildflowers across the hills. Calves tumbled on unsteady legs, and life returned to the valley. And with it, warm mth returned to Ethan's heart. He found himself seeking Clara's presence, not just for meals or feeds, but for conversation, for her quiet laughter, for the light she brought into rooms he had left cold too long. One afternoon, he found her mending a shirt by the window, sunlight reading her hair with gold. He paused in the doorway until she looked up, startled. Mr. Rollins, she asked. Ethan, he corrected gently, stepping closer. You've cared for me more honestly than anyone has in years. If anyone has the right to call me by name, it's you. Her cheeks flushed, her lips trembled. Ethan, she whispered. It was the sweetest sound they had heard in a long, long time.